Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show where the action is the juice and where we live our lives a quarter mile at a time. I'm your host, Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can follow me on all the socials at Misfit_Minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
And I'm your other host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
Every week we take the red pill and use our certain set of skills to break down the best action films of all time. Today we're talking about the 1994 film Speed.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do?
The game began with the ultimate test.
Where's Jack? Where do you think?
Now,
Stay on or get off.
Get off.
This is much better.
he's the only solution.
Pop quiz. You have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do?
Keanu Reeves,
What do you do?
Speed.
All right, if you haven't seen it, an LAPD police officer being taunted by a terrorist must prevent a bomb exploding aboard a city bus by keeping it above 50 miles per hour. It's Speed, that is. To get this bullet train started, let's take the listeners back to June 10th, 1994. It was made for $30 million, grossed a total of $350 million worldwide, so very successful summer blockbuster. Interesting fact, I found they actually moved up the release of this as to not compete with True Lies, which was another juggernaut blockbuster that summer. So it was a very smart decision on Fox's part, I believe. 20th Century Fox.
Yep.
It opened number one the first week it came out. So that would be June 10th, 1994. $15 million domestic. And this top five, it's something, I gotta say. So another reason they moved it out is because the Flintstones was also in theaters at this time, and they did not think it would be any competition to this R-rated action movie, and they were right. It did not. It was families went to go see that, and then the dads went to go see Speed.
Right.
City Slickers 2 was at number 3. It also opened the same week. And Maverick, I've never heard of these two. Maverick at number 4 and Renaissance Man at number 5. I have no idea.
Oh, they're great.
Oh,
You got to
okay.
see Maverick. It's a great racist Mel Gibson movie.
Of
when
course.
he's still really like shining, and it's kind of like Jodie Foster's there too. It's like an old timey card game kind of movie in like the West.
Let me just
It's really
clarify
cool,
real quick.
actually.
You're saying a racist Mel Gibson movie?
He's not racist in it, but
That
our
just
favorite
those two
racist Mel
words
Gibson.
those two words just don't go together. I don't know.
I just can never think of him as not like we have to always bill him as like we all know who he is,
Yeah.
but this is back before that time. And it's a lot of fun. It's like it's just like a fun
So not
old
the
Western.
movie, just the guy. Okay, I
Just
I
the
just
guy,
wanted to make
yeah.
sure. Okay. Other notables in the top 10, I thought Beverly Hills Cop number 3 was at number 6. It had
Nice.
been in theaters for a couple weeks at that point. Same thing with The Crow at number 9. And this was
Mhm.
pretty crazy to me. Four Weddings and a Funeral was at number 10, 14 weeks after it had opened at the box office. So still going strong. Like,
Shocking.
damn.
But also, that's like some people's favorite movie of all time. So I'm like, oh, okay, 14 weeks. They were telling all their friends to go see it.
Yeah, another movie I haven't seen, but again, this was before my time a little bit, so
It's a good one.
that's why. But
And it's cool that The Crow came out this year, too, because they're about to re-release The Crow. The Bill Skarsgård Crow is about to come out soon.
that is right. I also just bought the 4K. They released that within the last month or so. I tried to get the Steelbook version, but those babies were gone ASAP. If you didn't pre-order the
course.
Steelbook, you were shit out of luck like me, and you're stuck with the regular 4K, which is cool. But I mean, the Steelbook was really like it had the crow, and then you could take off the sleeve, and this is all just physical media nerd shit. But
But it's still cool.
but yeah, let's jump right in. We got a lot to talk about with our first segment called "Getting the Band Back Together."
I don't have friends. I got family.
In this segment, we'll take a slow motion look at the filmmaking choices that went into the film and the ass kickers responsible. This movie was written by Graham Yost and directed by the legendary Jan de Bont, who, of course, directed Die Hard. And I have to be honest, the opening credits to this movie, they just remind me so much of Die Hard.
Cinematographer on Die Hard, John McTiernan directed Die Hard, but he was
Oh, that's right. My bad.
he's
Jan
a
de Bont is the
legendary like
cinematographer.
cinematographer before he
Yeah.
jumped into movies with like this and Twister in the 90s.
He's Deakins level from the
definitely.
80s.
He also did The Hunt for Red October, which not necessarily like one of my favorite movies, but you can't deny
I like that one.
the cinematography in there is next level. So
Yeah,
he knows.
I recently rewatched that. That's so wild.
So did I. Yeah. So yeah, if we're talking about the filmmaking in this, I think it's next level. I mean, I don't know what else you would want in an action movie, to be honest. It's nonstop action, all thrills, no frills. I don't know if it was the amount of caffeine I had this morning, but I was constantly on the edge of my seat. Even though I had seen this movie before and I knew what was going on, like there were just certain things where I was like, oh yeah, how do they get out of this situation again? Or like, it's one of those movies where you kind of forget the like nuances to it, where like, I knew Jeff Daniels dies, spoiler alert, but I thought it was at the beginning in the elevator thing. So then like when he survived that, I was like, wait, I thought he died in this. And then midway through the movie, he does die. Because I remember that great scene with Keanu where he's like, oh, fuck! He's just like going crazy.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, it's just I love it. The car chases, that leads to the bus, and then there's the bus is basically a whole chase because it cannot slow down. You got like jumping over ramps, hitting baby carriages, like it's craziness. Like every scene is packed, and like the emotional beats are woven into it like so elegantly to where it's like it doesn't take me out like, oh, here goes the obligatory like scene with Sandra Bullock and Keanu. Like it all feels real, like their chemistry, the situation. So I love it.
For a story so outrageous, it does feel incredibly grounded.
Right, exactly. It's really impressive, and I think they take that Die Hard template, which, and I'd say that as a compliment because there were so many like copycatters that like just did not do it justice, and like they understand this is a regular guy. He is just a regular FBI person. He's not swole like Hulk level. He can get hurt. There is like real fear and emotion in him. He's not a perfect guy. He's willing to shoot civilians and hostages. So there's some complexity here behind a lot of these characters. Like even to the villain, where it's like the fact that he's a former cop. I love that too.
Yes.
So that reveal. Some other things, like I just like the physical stunts. We stressed on the show so much, but like watching this again, I was like, God damn, they do not make them like this anymore. They just don't.
No, and I wish they could and would.
I know.
This movie's so good.
A few exceptions. Obviously John Wick. Other franchises that really do blend CG and action really well. But I mean, like this level where everything, it's not just the story looks grounded, but the stunts also look so grounded and so real.
I mean, they're mostly real.
Right,
that's
what I'm saying.
The most impressive thing is they were really like all that stuff you talked about. They for sure were destroying streets of Los Angeles filming this movie.
And then just some other things. I mean, I already talked about, I think Jan de Bont, truly one of the greatest action filmmakers with his work. And I do think this is his best, personally. Like I know people ride for Twister, but in my opinion, this is way above Twister.
You can't really compare them because Twister is like an action drama that is like drama first, and the action just like elevates it and makes it all more intense. And I feel like this movie is more like an action drama where like the action is there, but the drama really pulls it back to the ground again.
Yeah,
it's interesting how like they're both next level, but I really feel like you can't compare them. They're both perfect examples of how it's sort of like he can softly slide somewhere else and do.
But I think the true gauge
too.
of that is like I have a friend that's like Twister's like one of his favorite movies ever, and like he's so excited for Twisters, and I'm like,
same.
I could not like really care less. Like I'll see it, but like I'm not like, oh my god, I've been waiting for this forever. Now there's 2 Twisters. I'm just like, it's fine.
That's
like whatever,
point.
I'll see it, I guess. And then 2 like filmmaking things I thought were very interesting. So Keanu initially turned it down because he didn't like the script, and he would, it's reported, I don't know if this is true or not, that he would only agree to it if they agreed to let Joss Whedon do a rewrite, like an uncredited rewrite on the script. And that's like another thing that I think, because I guess it was full of like cheesy one-liners like throughout, which is this,
of course,
this movie really doesn't have that. And apparently like Whedon took all of that out and like really saved only like the best ones. And so I know he gets a lot of shit for like his Marvel writing and stuff like that and how unsubtle it is, but like honestly, this is like a great rewrite. Like if that was the case, I'd be like they did a great job.
I'd never think of Keanu like trying to ride for Whedon, but maybe, you know, in the 90s. And it's true, like there are still some cheesy lines that found their way in here, but it really could have lost all of the great grounding and authenticity we're talking about if there were too many of them.
And none that made me like cringe. Like they all felt like, you know, even like up to that last one, I was like, yeah, he's been through like 90 minutes of nonstop shit. Like, of course, he deserves at least one line, you know, to be cool in that moment for Sandy B. And then the last interesting thing I found with the filmmaking, so they did offer it to John McTiernan, who did Die Hard. He also turned it down because he said it was too similar to Die Hard, which I understand. You know,
totally.
he did Die Hard 3, which also I think is like treading similar ground to this in a way, you know, with bringing it into the city. So, and he did that. So I feel like that's understandable. Rennie Harlan, who also did Die Hard 2, was offered to do this and turn it down. And Quentin Tarantino was offered this and also turned it down, even though he named it one of his 20 favorite films since 1992. I don't know like when that list was populated, or if it's still the case, but I just thought that was interesting. Tarantino has very like unique taste for like a filmmaker. It's kind of funny, like the films that resonate with him. Like I would not put Speed on my bingo card of like Tarantino's favorite movies.
I mean, I would maybe put it on there, you know, in his fanboy category, but what an interesting idea if he were going to direct this. Like what a completely different world, like, you know, sideways parallel reality if he directed this movie.
I feel like there'd be a lot more like one-liner, like I'm just picturing like he would do it more like the Die Hard 3 route. Like I'm sure Sam Jackson would be in here somewhere in the Jeff Daniels role, maybe, you know, like
a little bit more racism, totally.
Yeah. Any other filmmaking things that you wanted to cover before we move on?
I guess, you know, all the stuff you're saying, I completely agree with. I think, you know, I am always out here riding for like real explosions and real fire. I know that they have gotten very good at doing it with computers, but there's just something about how like that visceralness of like, you get it out of the actors when they're reacting to these things. You know, you get like, you can smell the fire. Sometimes it's so real. And they blew up so many things in this movie, which looked amazing. I really love when he uses the low camera when Jack's first trying to get on the bus and he's like in that guy's convertible. It's just like, you know, it starts to get you to the level of like, this guy is panicking. And that is mirrored in the filmmaking because we're about to get on this bus and then we'll like be in that location, which is a really interesting predicament for this movie to be in. But I do feel like, you know, those small details, the tight camera, the way it's moving, it's all so smart to keep momentum going, even though he's only going to be in this one place for a little while. I love the fact that they're like for real shooting in the streets. Like I feel like in movies now you can really tell that they're like using one drag of a road over and over again, backwards and forwards to do things. And like I know all of the places that they're driving through in this movie. Like they are all there. They all exist for real. They had to stop traffic. Like so good. And when they lift the bus off the ground like one half, it's so good. It's so good. It just, you know, I don't know what they're using to do it, but it just feels like so authentic.
I also think they toe a very thin line that Die Hard does really well is that the villain is fun. It's fun to watch him do this, even though he's a terrorist and he's shooting innocent people and he's blowing up innocent people. Like he is having so much fun with his performance. And it's the same thing with Hans Gruber. Like he's just in it for the money as well, but they aren't just like regular terrorists. There's some other purpose and, you know, they're making us kind of like, okay, I see, like, yeah, you got screwed over with your pension. I obviously you would be upset, you know? And so I think some of those Die Hard sequels, what kind of brought them down a little bit is that they just went for straight terrorists. And like, that's not fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fun to actually watch terrorists do their thing. You need some other actor or like character traits to do that. So
yeah, you need charisma.
Yeah,
you know,
you really
like one
do.
of the great lines is like, "Poor people are crazy." You know, I'm a visionary.
I'm
like,
eccentric. Yeah,
exactly. And that it's a perfect segue to go to our next segment.
That's what I was thinking.
Which is choose your fighter.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This is where we take a look at all of the bros and babes that flex their acting muscles and sometimes their real muscles for us movie buffs. This film is stacked with great stars, especially from the 90s. You got Sandra Bullock looking hot as ever, Jeff
Yes.
Daniels, Joe Morton, Dennis Hopper, and of course, our king, Keanu Reeves. So, I mean,
The greatest.
where do you want to start, honestly? Because we could go for all of those people, honestly, for a minute.
Everyone is
I know.
so good. I mean, like, even down to some of the like smaller characters that only have a couple of lines here or there. Everybody shows up and is like, I am a real person and going to do this. Like Keanu, this is one of my favorite of his performances because he's still sort of in that bro phase of his career where he's like, I don't know you, man, like coming through just off the beach and also working, just so good. But he's exactly showing us kind of like what is going to make him different and why he's going to last as an action hero,
Yes.
because he can still make all of this feel really grounded and authentic. And I feel like the same is true for Sandy B. She's not like a huge action star, but she always finds her way into action movies, and she really can keep them on the ground or make them comedic. Like she too is bringing this quality like right from the beginning that's making, that is like, this is the greatest. She's adorable. She is Gen Z all the way, and I love it. Just like so many pieces of, again, like this unique, authentic chemistry that they have and that they just have as actors.
Yeah.
And like we're talking about, fucking Dennis Hopper, he's a great villain of the 90s. He's like a villain in every movie. I think the 80s
And the 80s,
too.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw 2, Blue Velvet.
Fucking Blue Velvet.
Yes,
Yeah,
dude.
Jesus. Exactly. He is just, you can't go wrong with a villain like him. And he has that unique charisma, just like Hans Gruber, where like, they want the money, but they also kind of enjoy watching people squirm a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a unique piece of this that like is kind of fun because they don't hide who he is. Like, I love how they just reveal, like, in the open, you're like, oh, Dennis Hopper is the bad guy here.
I
Got
also
it.
love like the scenes where he's just like in his lair with like all the TVs and he's like going back and forth from like the news, the bus footage, oh, the football game, oh, damn, they almost scored.
Yes.
Like this
Yes.
guy truly is just like, part of him is like a regular guy just watching like TV, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but then he's like, oh, I forgot, I also have a bomb attached to this bus. I got to get back
Right.
to it.
I'm in the middle of gaslighting Keanu,
Yeah.
and he's so good at it. Like, even their chemistry is really interesting, where you can tell that he is really getting under Keanu's skin. And then as the movie goes on, Keanu is really getting under his skin. Like, their dynamic together is also really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, you would have been a good cop, Jack. You would have been a good. Yeah, let's start with. I mean,
Don't grow a brain, you know?
Yeah, let's start with Keanu and Sandy B because I think they're so essential for this movie to work. I think part of the reason the sequel fails so hard, no offense to Jason Patrick, but you're no Keanu, dude. Like,
It's
and
true.
they shouldn't have ever greenlit that sequel if they didn't have Keanu back. Sandy B, try as she may, she cannot carry that whole movie by herself. You know what I mean?
She
Like,
tried so hard. She
Yeah.
did try so hard.
I also found a quote where she called that the biggest piece of crap she ever was in, so it's kind of funny.
Listen, I still rewatch it every once in a while. It's still a lot of fun. It's just,
I mean, just
it doesn't fit.
the conception of that, of like, all right, speed, the bus, it's going fast. What's another vehicle that goes really fast? Oh, a ship. Like, no, that's not the same. Like, ships do not go fast.
No, but I
God.
will say Willem Dafoe is a really good
That's
villain
the
at
best
that.
part of
He's
that movie.
fucking wild.
He's the best
yeah.
part of that movie for sure. But like you said, like Keanu has amazing chemistry with everybody. Like Sandra Bullock, Jeff Daniels, like he has that physicality. Like one part I love is where he like breaks the glass of the bus door when he's like trying to get in. Like he knocks against it. And I guess that wasn't even supposed to be in the script, but they just kept it in anyway. They were like, that's badass. Like
Yep.
Jan de Bont also said that he cast him after seeing Point Break because he thought he was, let's see if you agree with all of these. I do personally. He was vulnerable, not bulky, and looks great to women. I mean,
Yes.
come on. Yeah.
Those are all true.
Checks all
Yep.
those boxes.
Yep.
I guess he also made him cut his hair to do a buzz cut because he wanted him to seem more of like what a cop would look like. And
Totally.
the producers got like really upset at that. But I thought it was the right choice. I think he looks great with it. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, because you had to like get him out of that motif of like the undercover cop that
long-haired,
like is
like,
fitting in.
Surfer guy.
Right.
Yeah. It definitely brings like, again, John McClane, like regular guy, he's just a cop. You can identify with that, even though Keanu has this like mysterious essence to him and everything, whether it's the Matrix or John Wick, that just makes him like so captivating to watch.
Yep.
I also think Sandra Bullock is so great in this. I mean, like, I don't know, like, honestly, we'll get to it like when we do our ratings, but I just remember I don't have a great memory of this movie. And so when I was watching it, I do remember her being like more hysterical or something, you know what I mean? And then when I was rewatching it, I was like, man, like this is, again, what we talked about. This is so grounded. And
Yes.
the scenes where she is like breaking down and crying, it's like, that's what you would do in that situation. You know what I mean? Like when, the old lady blows up and she's like, Keanu has to like calm her down, and he's like, you're still alive and you're grateful for that. And she's like, but she looks so scared. Like they have that bonding together in that moment. And I was just like, man, like she is really selling it. And I'm really invested in these characters, even though it's just a scene of emotional connection. You know what I mean? They do such a great job at that.
They both approach their characters like they're heroes. You know what I mean? She's the reluctant hero because she's like, I'm taking over the bus. Like, I'm following these directions. I feel responsible for the people on this bus, just like Keanu does.
Yeah, and then like, you believe that they like get together at the end after all the shit that they've been through, even though like, that's the thing that's ridiculous in some of these movies. It's like, she's like, you stayed with me, you didn't leave me behind. And then you have like the callback to that where it's like, relationships with crazy beginnings never work out. He's like, I guess we'll have to rely on the sex then.
Yeah, like still gotta have that 90s-ness in it, but again, like she sells it because by the end of this, it's like they have their inertia and their endorphins are so high they have to have sex
it's
with
like
each other.
all this adrenaline has to go somewhere, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then Dennis Hopper is great. I mean, he's the maniacal villain, but like, like he's just chewing it up. He's having a great time. I love her, pop quiz asshole. Like he's taking their own words, using it against them. I love the boomer motivation that it's because of his pension. I love that.
Very true. Yep.
Definitely getting some Blue Velvet vibes, especially when he said the line, "Do not fuck with daddy." I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, come on. Someone let him improv that, because I was just getting weird, like, sexually motivated stuff from Blue Velvet on that one.
But that makes sense, like I feel like when he's calling Sandy B the Wildcat before we know that's like a clue to follow later, it does feel kind of like he is invoking that idea of like, there is something a little bit like gross
like
about the way he's thinking of these
something.
people.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah, like he enjoys how scared everyone is. He really does.
I also found that like the gum scene at the beginning when Alan Ruck is like, trying to talk to her was improvised by Sandy B, which I think I've never seen that in a movie, but I just thought that was so great. Good. Where she's like, oh, I got gum on my seat, and just
I'm leaving. Yep. I almost am like, women, do this in public. Yes. Like if people are bothering you, use these as your
nowadays
to get
it's just so easy with the headphones. You know what I mean? You could just, I'm not what? I don't know this.
Dude, trust me, that has not stopped so many dudes from trying to talk to me. And I'm like, bro, you can fucking see these headphones. But yeah, I love how real that feels too, because it's sort of like, she's not on that bus because this is her normal route. Like, I think that's what's interesting about the crew on the bus is they all have these unique stories, including her.
Yep.
And it is kind of fun how, like all of those, each of their backstories like helps to add to the tension, but also like the stakes of rescuing these people.
And finally, I'd say like the last one I want to talk about is just Jeff Daniels, because it's like his death is so tragic, even though he's a side character. You know what I mean? Like you get all that dynamics like between them in the elevator scene, and they're like heroes for that. Saving the hostages and that, and that's like a great action scene by itself. That's the stage for everything that's to come. But then I like that, like, because he gets shot in the leg, he's got desk duty. And has to like help out from behind the scenes, but they still work together, to try and defuse the bomb. And this is his line I love where he's like, "They're giving you a medal for shooting me, you prick."
Yeah.
You told me to.
Hey, man. And also like the idea that like, that he's like, guts will only get you so far and then it'll get you dead. And it's sort of like, he's the safer of the two cops and still ends up being a casualty here, which is, just makes it sadder. And I think that's why Keanu, like has such a strong reaction to finding out about what's happened to him.
Yeah, there's like a hint of tragedy in there, even though like he's drunk and they should be celebrating. You can tell that he's like, sad that he's not going to be carrying out missions with Keanu, even though he's like, this is super dangerous, bro. Like, maybe we should think about different careers.
Yeah, like we should maybe take this more seriously.
And then, yeah, just the rest of you mentioned like the cast on the bus, I think critical too. They all have their own things that they bring to it. Alan Ruck, Joe Morton, and Beth Grant from Donnie Darko, which I just watched. She is
so
phenomenal in that. Maybe has the best line in that. You know, I'm really questioning your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
She does have that like
God.
kind of unhingedness
Yes.
to her that she can bring everywhere. And it's like perfect here because it is one of those things where you can like, you know, when she gets herself into the predicament she gets herself in, you can understand the human component of it. It doesn't seem like, oh, this stupid lady. It seems like this woman is so scared. These other cops that don't know what's going on are like
Yeah, I was
calling
gonna say
to
it's
her.
not all her fault. They tell her like, come on, you know what I mean? Like,
Those
so
stupid cops. I blame them.
I mean, when we get to the nitpick section, I got some stuff for that, so we'll save it for that. But let's go to our next segment called "The Need for Speed."
Pain don't hurt.
Yes, in this segment, we do what the Oscars don't do and honor the amazing stuntmen and women for their death-defying work and pick out the punch that knocked us out the most. All right, what are your top stunts here?
Number 3, I just kind of lumped in all the driving stunts. I just feel like this is a very driving heavy movie, and so
Yes.
all of the stunts from Keanu chasing down the bus, having to like jump into it, breaking the door off of that Jaguar. Are you insured? The bus driver getting shot. I forgot about that. I was like, oh, that's why Sandy B. Like, I just assumed she was the bus driver for some reason. So I was just like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. Crashing through the barrels, jumping off freeways, and that big jump is ridiculous, but it still looks badass. You know what I mean? So
Defining moment of the film.
right. Number 2, I have Keanu like going under the bus, which again looks so scary. Like he's next to those like big ass wheels, and like I don't care if I can see that it's a stunt guy half the time. Like it still looks it looks crazy good.
Yes.
Because again, I forgot about a lot of those nuances, like the gas, him having to stab the gas tank to. But you see, like,
to not go under the
his
fucking
shoes,
wheels.
like, fucking scraping against the pavement, and then the wheel gets taken out. Like, those are some things that you just forget about. I guess I haven't seen this movie as many times. And then number 1, though, I just have the big bus explosion. It's like we're all waiting for it. It's the Hitchcock thing of like, you put a bomb under the table, you're waiting for it to go off the entire movie. Put a bomb on a bus. I'm waiting for that bus to blow up. And when it does, it is fucking fantastic. It's it's hard to replicate that in CGI. I feel like, as good as it is nowadays, like real fire will always just look better. And so had to give it to the bus explosion.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, it's kind of a simple stunt, but I really love when they escape the bus right before that big explosion and they slide on the little piece together, like through all those cones, just like flying through them.
Oh, yeah,
There's just
yeah.
something about how like that looks really fun, but also really like, cool. And I'm not sure that they like.
And it's a little romantic.
It is romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is romantic. I don't know if they like really did it or whatever, but it's just like a fun kind of little stunt where like she's been going through all this stuff and now she's like getting thrown out of the bus. I really love when he jumps off the car into the bus. And I also love all the times that they're stepping on and off the bus. Like when he's like joining the cops to go get information or like figure out a new plan to try to dismantle the bomb. And he just like steps right off so effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Like those kinds of stunts look so good. And I especially love when they're about to make the jump and they like pull away and everyone's looking at each other like this might be the end.
Yeah.
It just looks really, really cool. But I think my favorite stunt of this movie is a surprise because, this whole thing has taken place on the bus. We were waiting for the bus to explode. And then we have the extra scene on the subway, which is, fantastic. And when the subway, runs the track and then bursts out onto Hollywood Boulevard, it's just so good. Explodes out
right in front of the
Chinese theater.
Yep,
exactly. Just such a perfect like period on the end of this because they ended the bus exploding all the way at LAX. It's like no one cares about that.
Right,
but right in the center of Hollywood is so funny.
Did you see what movie was playing on the marquee there?
Oh,
did you catch it?
I did not. What was it?
2001: A Space Odyssey, which I guess was just like a Yandabant, like I love Stanley Kubrick. I'm just gonna put this in here.
Baller. That's so good.
I know.
Nice.
I think that cone scene too. Like that's a good one too that I didn't have. But like, yeah, I think the romantic part of it is just like he's holding on to her the whole time. You know what I mean? And then even when they're like stopped moving, he like won't let go, which again I thought was like a realistic like touch where they're both like terrified. Obviously, you would be. And so, you know, what better way to comfort somebody than Keanu embracing you? You know what I mean? You know, like,
Yeah, it's over. It's over, Annie. It's so good.
Which brings us, and then we have to, I do want to shout out to that elevator scene. It's a great setup. Like, just like you
Yeah.
mentioned, like the train scene at the end, like, because this is nonstop action, you know, it's easy to like write off both of those bookends. But I do think like they both serve a purpose. Like for that elevator scene, you get the Jeff Daniels and Keanu relationship. You get to
Yep.
see like how they are under pressure. You know, they're trying to solve this without killing any hostages. They're successful at that. But Jeff Daniels still, you know, again, is like a casualty. And then at the end, you know, the same thing where, you know, you think Sandy B is safe and then she gets roped into this, you know, this plot again and he has to save her again. And again, you know, it seems redundant, but they all serve like different purposes where it's like, now it's not just a bus and Sandy B. It's like, I have to save Sandy B, you know, like.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't care about the equipment anymore. I'm here for the girl.
yeah.
And I will say once more, like about that Jeff Daniels scene, that stunt when they blow up the house looks amazing.
Oh, man, yeah.
And a lot of the stunt guys are like exploding and on fire. So
Yeah.
like real dudes doing firework during that scene too, which is like, you know, we still see people do firework and explosive stuff, but it was just a great reminder of like, yeah, they were always looking to blow somebody up or set someone on fire in stunts.
It's
in
really
movies
impressive.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, we need more of that. All right, time for our next segment called Death Proof.
If he dies, he dies.
This is where we take a look at the movie's body count and see who bit the dust the hardest. What do you have, Shani B? What were your top three?
Well, I will start with Sandy B's reaction to thinking she killed a baby. She didn't, so it's not a real death. You know, just an unhoused woman's collection of cans.
It was cans.
Cans, Annie. It's so good. But like, you know, that panic that's on her face, you know, because she almost runs over the kids in the crosswalk, and it's like she's doing everything that she can here, but you know, no one would blame her if an accident took place. And there's just something about how like for a second you like recognize like, holy shit, it would be so scary to be in her position, especially when she thinks she might have hurt like a baby.
I know.
So that's a good one. And I do feel like when that lady gets blown up, the older lady trying to get off the bus, that's just like such a crazy kind of kill because you don't, I guess like you maybe expect that something will happen, but you never really expect that she's just going to straight up die. You know, like Sam got shot, but like he's going to be okay. You know, she's not exactly a main character, but her death is still incredibly impactful, I feel like. And I guess she doesn't bounce under the wheel, but that's always what I had remembered her doing. So
they kind of show a shot
stuck
of
with me.
a corpse like getting run over.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And then
definitely
the
stuck with
news
me.
guy kind of like reiterates that, like, you know, the news footage where he's
Oh.
like, yeah, we just saw a body under a car. We didn't know what happened. I'm just like, Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, not great, not great. But I think obviously the number one death of this movie is the amazing way Dennis Hopper straight loses his head to the subway light. Like
Yeah.
it like looks really real, number one, as if like Keanu held up like a dummy and they just like had the dummy's head burst off.
Mhm.
But it's just also like a fun one because, you know, Mission Impossible was around this time.
I
and,
was
like,
definitely
he was really
thinking of that.
dodging
Yes.
those. And so we all have an awareness that you got to keep your head down if you're going to be riding on top of a train.
Yeah.
I guess except for Dennis Hopper. But it's just a good one because you're like, this guy, you know, they thought he died in the open. He always finds a way to squirm away, and it's nice to be like, not anymore. He's not going to get away with this.
Got so close though. I love that reveal too, where he's like, the paint goes off in his face. Like whenever he gets mad, it's so funny. He's like, my money.
Yes,
He
yes.
just starts shoot. That's when he starts shooting the machine gun at the top by Keanu. Like, oh, he's so good.
So mad.
Yeah. So my top three, I have, you know, again, this was a kind of an easier one because there's not a lot of deaths in here relatively. But I did have the lady trying to leave and get blown up and run over. Because again, it's not like, oh, she deserved it, but because you understand she was so scared, the cops were telling her to go. And then the fact that he had that like little booby trap rigged up, it's not something you expect either.
Nope.
You know, so Even though he did let off the bus driver, which I thought was nice, or it's like,
Yeah, I guess like he perfectly challenges you to not know when he's gonna strike.
yeah, but just the negotiation of that. He's like, I thought cops were supposed to shoot the bad guys, just constantly fucking with Keanu. Like I love that.
So good.
Number 2, I had Jeff Daniels getting blown up by the house. Again, very tragic scene. I almost expected him to like salute, like the way he looked at the camera. It was just like
the look on his face.
It was just like this, resolve and like acceptance, even though like it's like, man, I fucked up,
Yeah, he's like, oh shit.
And then number 1, there's no contest. It had to be Dennis Hopper on the top of the train. I mean, it was just such a gnarly effect. Like you see the head go back, like so it's not like for example, I was thinking of Mission Impossible 2, but it's not like, I guess they do kind of show that too, where it's like the spikes go into Emilio Estevez, and it's just like 1 frame or 2 frames of like this super fucked up death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, looking image, right? Singular image. Ugh.
So that had to take the cake. There was no other competition as far as I was concerned.
So good, so good.
That takes us to our next segment called Exit Wounds.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
This is where we'll take a look at the film's imperfections and decide whether they're fatal hits or just minor flesh wounds. All right, you mentioned you had a couple of nitpicks that you wanted to throw out here. Tell me what they are.
I mean, there's a couple, but I feel like because this movie is so expertly done, you kind of just go with it. It's easy to just like suspend my disbelief while I'm watching this because all of this performances and the filmmaking is so solid.
Yes.
But yeah, a couple that just stood out to me. I mean, the construction jobs are never finished in this fucking town. Like the train tracks, the freeway. I'm like, and then the fact that like that's a surprise. Like they're like, go to this open freeway, and then like while they're driving, he's like, I guess it wasn't finished. Like,
as if it were finished, it'd be open. Yeah.
He's like, and then they try and like explain that away. It's like it's finished on the map. I'm like, why would it be finished on the map then? Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Silly.
Number 3, is shooting a hostage really the best way to go? I didn't research this, but I don't know if that would be like is that in the FBI handbook, like the LAPD
probably
handbook?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I would say probably not. But I would say that it's like a common one in movies. I feel like in movies,
it's definitely like a John McClane. It's in the
know?
John McClane handbook for sure. Like that is some shit he would do.
Yeah. The bad boy cops. They're also into things like this.
The renegades. Number 2, this was a big one, especially because Jeff Daniels goes like, why would you not send in a bomb squad first? This guy's trademark is bombs. He hooks up traps and booby traps and bombs everywhere he goes. You're just gonna fucking go in his, windows,
climbing
doors,
through the window,
like,
bro.
Come on, dude. I just, it'd be another thing if it was like he was taken out some other way that he wasn't expecting. But I'm like, this guy's whole thing is bombs. Like, yeah, that was.
You had to know.
That was kind of sus. And then number 1, it's just the bus stuff. It's kind of like, I do not think a bus would be able to maintain 50, especially in LA with all the traffic. I mean, you're from there, so like better than me. But it's like.
Also, there are no shoulders. So on all the highways in Los Angeles, there's no shoulder that could ever fit a bus.
It's like all lanes, right? No shoulder.
Yeah, they go right up to the friggin' wall. And that's why everything is always so shitty all the time.
Yeah.
You'd have to get on a freeway that's unfinished. I will say, though, that 105 freeway is a real sneak out of LAX if you're trying to not have to take some of the other more like busier highways. It's usually kind of open. But, at this time when they're like still building it, it's just so funny that like they did have to figure out. They're like, I think they knew there was no way we were going to buy that they could go at 50. Because even if they like tried to go to parts of town where there aren't a lot of people, there's just no way. Like there'd be too many people crossing. There'd be too many people in the way. So they had to like come up with this new idea.
I mean, it's like a way to up the danger factor, right? And it does work. You know what I mean? Like, but that's like another thing where it's like there would be so many casualties. I feel like babies would be dead potentially in this scenario.
She for sure would have run a lot of people over.
and just like, when they hit the ramp, like once they crash land, I'm like, I feel like you're not going 50 at that point, and all those.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to stay up.
And all those turns, you know what I mean? Like you have to slow down on those turns. But again, like the filmmaking of it, like when they're like, oh, everybody get to one side, like we're gonna turn over, like it's these are nitpicks, but still love the movie, all the same. Yeah. So what about you?
I mean, my main thing that always sticks with me is like in the end when he's like, he doesn't know the bomb went off, because they can't put helicopters over
Right, right,
LAX.
right.
It's like the size of that explosion, there's no way the news wouldn't have reported it. There's no way anyone would miss it, even if they're flying outside of the airport, because it was an enormous explosion. So it's
Yeah.
also one of those things where just like I think Jeff Daniels like rushing into the house too quickly is kind of an oversight. Is that like they keep thinking they're going to finally get one step ahead of him and he just continues to prove them wrong. Like even if it wasn't reported on or whatever, he still figures out that the camera's been looped before they're able to actually get him.
And I do like that reveal of like when he notices that the camera's been looped. Like again, anytime he gets upset, it's just so fun to watch Dennis Hopper.
He's the best. He really is.
I did have that
really
one as
is.
well, just because again, my memory of this just not very good. But I thought I remembered him having like a speed counter like on his desktop or something. You know what I mean? Like to track like how fast the bus was going, and I guess that wasn't a thing. So
yeah, but he should, right? Because I guess I
Yeah.
would have thought, but I guess he just programmed it was a set it and forget it bomb at that point.
Yeah.
The other ones, like the door bomb, those were the ones he had to have his hair on the trigger for. But that was pretty, yeah. Like I feel like just like you're saying, it's easy to suspend belief here because they find a way in the performances and the way they're kind of capturing these stunts of
Mhm.
making it not seem too, ridiculous, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that takes us to our next segment, our new segment called More Firepower.
Okay, so what do you need besides a miracle?
Guns. Lots of guns.
Yes.
Thank you, Keanu, the one. In this segment, we pick our favorite action stars between Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and would-be Keanu. But in instances where any of these people are in the movie, we will replace them out with somebody else. So in this case, we decided Bruce Willis. So who would bring the most heat to this movie if they were in the cast between those three guys?
Honestly, in this one, I feel like I could see Sly sliding right in
Okay.
nice and easily. Just being like a guy that's on the, with Joe Morton, being like, "Come on, Chief," and trying to like see if he can, be their third guy. Daniels, Sly, and
They were
Keanu's.
cans,
Exactly. Sly being like, "I'll go first," like being willing to like put himself into harm's way. Because I feel like that is like the slight element that is kind of missing here is that like while Keanu wouldn't think twice to go into harm's way to do something, I could see Sly playing a kind of character that's like, I'm also not afraid.
Yeah.
And so I thought he could fit into here pretty well. What about you? Who'd you pick?
I gotta say, I kind of agree with Jan de Bont. You need someone that's not ripped. You need a more every guy. So I do think
Totally.
Bruce Willis, while he is the easy choice here because Die Hard is the template, I do think he would do the best. Because I'm even picturing like Arnold and Sly never really did any of these like edge of your seat thrillers, for 90 minutes. It's all like, very shoot 'em up heavy or action heavy. In other ways. So, and yeah, I was just picturing him saying like some of those one-liners, and I think Bruce could, he lost his head. I could see him doing justice to like, even though Keanu's great. So Bruce is my pick.
It's true. He would have been great in the Keanu role for sure. Just a similar kind of everyman cop, but having like that extra, like he would have been gaslighting Dennis Hopper back, which would have been something to see. That would have been something to see for sure.
And then I got a pop quiz for you in honor of this movie. Pop quiz hot shot. Well, this is a segment only for this movie.
Okay.
So I'll just fire him off. It's really fast. What do you think the body count is of this movie? You had to guess.
It's got to be, I guess, like, depending on how many people die in some of the explosions or something, like, at his house, like how many cops or whatever, it's still pretty low, like, 10 or something like that.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah, it can't be, it's not like thousands as you pointed out. It would definitely be if they were doing this for real on the streets.
IMDb says 14. So I think you're pretty close. All right.
14. Okay.
Next one here, Jeff Daniels, is who's in this movie, also played a character named Harry in a movie that came out in 1994, the same year. What movie?
Dumb and Dumber.
Ding, ding, ding. Good job. All right.
Yes! I'm so glad I got that one. I'd be so embarrassed if I couldn't get that one.
All right. Couple more. The guy who played Ortiz on the bus is in another movie we did on the Movie Buffs. Do you know
I
which
feel like
movie?
that guy is in a lot of movies. I feel like that's a stunt actor. Oh man.
Think of Mexican movies. I feel like that narrows it down a little bit that we've done.
Well, now I just want to say Machete, but
No,
was he never in any of the like Escape from New Yorks or LA's? Is he not there either?
nope. You
Dang.
ready?
Fuck.
You ready?
Yeah, tell me.
Blood in, Blood Out. He's the guy that what is it?
Oh, now I remember
that?
him.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the prison.
Shit. That's right. Oh, he was so nasty in
He
that
was.
too. I
And
can't
so, like,
believe I forgot.
when he says the line to Keanu, he's like, "You got some big round hairy cojones." I'm like, bro, you're again the nastiness from Blood in, Blood Out is carrying over. Like,
It's there.
all right, and then two more here. One, I guess it kind of ties into this more firepower category. Sandra Bullock was in a movie with somebody in this category, the three that we named in the 90s.
Oh yeah, she's in Judge Dredd with Sly.
Demolition Man.
Oh,
Also.
my bad, not Judge Dredd. Sorry. I immediately got distracted because she invites him to have sex with her mind in that movie.
Exactly. And then Joe Morton, who is in this movie, was in a movie with one of these three stars as well in the 90s. Can you guess that movie?
I always think of him in The Astronaut's Wife. That's the other movie that he always stands out to me, and so I can't remember, but it's gotta be.
It's probably my favorite death scene of all time in this movie.
Oh, what is it?
Terminator 2 Judgment Day. He is the scientist.
Fucking
finger on the trigger, and he's like, you see his last breaths as he dude. It's honestly one of the best death scenes ever. Most realistic, I feel like. Like, it looks so painful. You see his like dying breaths. So that was Pop Quiz Hot Shot. There you go. You did great.
Thank you. I got a 50%, I feel like. But I'll take it. I will take it.
But yeah, that brings us to our last segment called Game Over, man.
What a picture.
Good picture, yeah.
That is so much fun. I love that stuff, the killing.
A lot of killing.
In our final segment, we're going to rate the film out of 5 city buses. And I think you're going to be really happy to know that I'm going to give this movie 5 buses.
Our first 5 for Shetty.
It's my first one.
Let's go.
Oh, God, I love this movie.
I forgot the champagne though, but
oh, that's all good. It's all good. I forgot. I love this movie so much. I feel like it's an all-time favorite of mine. I have it memorized, like you were talking about how like some of the stuff slipped your memory, but like I have seen this movie probably like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Anytime it's like on any of the streamers, I'm like, oh, I'm watching it. Gotta rewatch it. And yeah, I love everyone in it. It's like one of the main reasons why I think I always was like, I'm trying to move to LA. Like, I got to get out there where all this crazy action is happening, where this like city that all of this crazy shit can take place in is happening. And I really feel like it still holds up as like, like really edge of your seat, like you're saying, just you want to watch it. You don't want to stop watching it. It's very hard to look away no matter what. And I love this fucking movie. So I had to go high. What about you?
Yeah, this is a first one for me, I think, as well, because like this might be the one that I didn't have like highly rated in my head. Like when we were decided to do this, I was like, I remember that being pretty good. And then rewatching it, I was like, holy fuck, like this is one of the best action movies. Like so I don't know, again, maybe I had just watched pieces of it or something, or I watched it when I was young and never revisited it again. So, but yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think this is a 5 buses. I think it's the best of the Die Hard ripoffs, and I say that with love, but we've had Die Hard on a boat, on a plane, on a bus, and I think this is the most successful one, and you got Jan de Bont to thank for that, honestly. So,
yes.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, that wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Last fact, too. I just wanted to squeeze this in here because I thought it was hilarious.
Throw it in.
That the O.J. Simpson freeway stuff happened. I can't remember if it was right before or during when this movie came out. But it was a lot of people that saw the movie were reminded because Keanu drives a Ford Bronco down the expressway.
He sure
to catch
does.
the bus, and they were just like in awe that like, wow, the footage looks so real compared to the actual thing we saw on the news.
That's so
I thought
good.
that was just perfect timing for this movie.
Oh my God, that's so silly. I mean, what happened wasn't silly, but it's silly that those things kind of look alike, and that Like movies they cannot be prepared for what's happening culturally when they're gonna come out.
Right.
They can never know.
So I just had it. That was the last one. I'm like, that's too good not to share with everybody. I thought that was hilarious.
For sure.
But yeah, you can get your fix. Follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitch at The Buffs. Follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
Take us for a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and please leave a positive review. We would love a 5-star review from you. That would be so great. You can follow me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. And next, it's you.
It's all good. Next week we'll be covering Alien, just in time for Alien Romulus. That trailer got me so fucking excited. I cannot wait.
Same.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Until then, stay buff.